Hey guys, welcome back to Shop Foreman Garage. Today I got something special. Well, it's special to me. Today we are going to be performing an oil change on this 2024 Mazda CX-90. 3.3 liter straight inline six twin scroll turbocharged Whistler. Yeah, we're going to be doing, I'll show you the procedures that Mazda says we need to follow for doing an oil change, the procedures that I usually do, and the procedures for this dealership. And I will show you how you can change the oil on your vehicle if you got one of these. And it's pretty much the same thing with most any vehicle, so it doesn't have to be a CX-90, but we're gonna be showing how I do an oil change on this CX-90. So let's crack this sucker open. Let's get into it. It only has 1,445 miles. That's it. The customer wants an oil change, so let's give him an oil change. I mean, that's what he wants. Let's do it. Let's get on. Oh no. Okay, the first thing that I'm gonna do is pop this hood open. So these hoods, they're high. They go really high. I mean, they go so high that I can't reach them in the center, you know. And this vehicle has this thing on this engine undercover or overcover or whatever you want to call it. It has this special thing right here. Let me show this to you. So it has this thing right here, and you grab this thing and you pull this out, and you're like, what the heck is this? What's this yellow thing right here? Well, it's meant to hook on up here. There's a hook right there. Let me show that to you. There's a hook right there. You hook this on, it keeps it up out of the way, right? So you push this thing up. And you can do it like that if you want. You don't have to. See, this is so tall, I can barely reach it. I gotta grab this hook, pull it down. So you don't have to do it like that. You can just grab this and pull it, and this whole thing will come off, which is usually what I do. And I just set aside. Don't forget it. Don't forget. So you don't want to forget to put that back on. Of course, if you're doing this at home, you're gonna see that line on the ground or whatever, and you're gonna remember, and you're gonna go back and you're gonna put it back. But when technicians forget to put stuff like that back, usually the customer gets in their vehicle and they're gone. And then you get back to your stall and you see that thing lying around. It's like, oh no. So yeah, it's best to not forget. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the fill cap. We're going to take that off. That's what Mazda says to do first. Take this off. You don't have to take this off first. It's up to you, but that's what Mazda says, is take the fill cap off first. So that's what we're going to do. And I have this thing racked. Let's get her up in the air, and I'll show you. I'll show you what tools I'm going to use, what tools you need, what tools you don't need, and we will get into doing this oil change. All right, this is what you're gonna need to do an oil change. 17 millimeter wrench, 17 millimeter. So you don't need a wrench. You can use a socket. If you have a socket set, you don't have a 17 millimeter wrench, you have sockets, use a socket. It doesn't have to be a wrench, but a 17 millimeter wrench is what I'm gonna use. A hammer and chisel, probably not a good idea, but I mean, use what you got. But 17 millimeter, that's the size of the drain plug. And you're gonna need an oil filter wrench. So this is the oil filter wrench that I have, the one that I use. It's adjustable. There are other variations of oil filter wrenches. Here's another one. It's looks almost the same as the one I just showed you. It's just got a little bit different angle to it. This one right here goes onto a ratchet, so it extends like that, and it grabs it, and when you turn it, it tightens down, you know, and it grabs it and pulls it off. There are other variations of oil filter wrenches. So if you don't have an oil filter wrench, you could use something like this, say channel lock. That'll work. Just keep in mind that oil filters nowadays, they have very thin walls. So once you grab onto them, you know, and you start to turn them, and what's wrong? Oh, you start to turn them, and it will put a hole in the sidewall, and then you got oil just coming out all over the place, you know. So and there are band wrenches and stuff like that that you can use. So you go down to your local parts store, and they have multiple different types of oil filter wrenches, and just grab the one that best suits you. And I will show you how we use these tools. Also, you're gonna need something to drain the oil into, right? So I have my drain right here, this one, but it's not gonna fit under the vehicle. If you're, you know, crawling around on the ground or something, you got something like this. You can buy this from the parts store. It's got that hole right there in the center, drains down in there. It's got a cap on it. It has a cap for the center too, and then you go and pour it out, you know, to, you know, recycle it, you know, and proper recycling facilities and whatnot. You got drain pans like this. Don't use kitchen utensils, guys. Just don't do it. I know it's tempting, right? You know, and then you got mom calling, hey, what happened to my cast iron skillet? You know, oh ma, I was changing the oil in my car. Just don't do that. Use a proper oil drain. Dispose of oil properly, okay? Let's get into this, and let me show you how we're gonna drain the oil in this thing. So before we start on this, there's a couple things I need to say. If you are doing an oil change in your vehicle, no matter what the vehicle is, you're doing it in your garage, you're doing it on your driveway, especially driveway. Driveways are sloped. They're usually sloped at some point. And the reason why that is because whenever it rains, you know, you want the water to flow away from your house. You don't want the water flowing into your garage, right? So usually there's a slope on most neighborhood driveways anyway. If you're gonna climb underneath your vehicle, you put the thing up on ramps, you put it on jack stands, whatever, you're gonna slide up underneath there. It is not worth your life. Make sure that the vehicle's in park, make sure it's in gear, make sure the emergency brake is on, make sure you use wheel chucks. Make sure you use every single precaution possible to keep that vehicle from rolling whenever while you're doing your oil change. Make absolutely sure, stay safe. Whatever you do, stay safe. It is not worth your life. So that being said, let's get into this. Okay, for this part right here, you are going to need that is an 8mm. You could use a screwdriver, a Phillips screwdriver, or an 8mm socket. I am going to use this right here. This is an 8mm socket on my cordless. And then you got these clips right here, and y'all have seen me take these clips out many times. I use a screwdriver and I just get underneath them, pull them out like that. Just get underneath there. Oh, come on. And just twist it, pull it out. And of course, the older the vehicle, the more dirt and stuff that's in these, the harder they are to get out, and sometimes they break, and that's just the way it is. There's all kinds of clips that you can put in place. Of course, these ones right here from Mazda, These are the best to use for Mazdas as far as I'm concerned, because I've seen all different kinds, you know, that people use, and they're harder to get out than these. So that's all the clips. Then let me get these 8mm bolts out. There's one right here and there's one right here. Everything else is all clips. So 2 8mm bolts and 4 clips. So let me get these out. All right, I'm gonna get these little 8mm bolts out. And this thing has this little lip right here that fits right inside there, and it just comes right down. So I'm gonna set that on the ground, and let's get a look in here. What are we looking at? Where is everything? What's going on? Here is the engine oil pan, engine oil drain plug right there, 17mm. And this is your oil filter that sits sideways right up in there. It's your oil filter. So not too hard, everything is right here. Okay, so all I need to do is loosen this right here and drain the oil, right? So before I do that, you know, of course I need to pull this thing under here so I have something to drain in. So before I do that, I need to let you know that Mazda says that oil is hot. Yeah, it's hot and it can burn you. So be very careful. You want to definitely run this engine, run it and get it hot before you drain the oil. Don't just do an oil change on an engine that's just sitting there cold. It's been sitting overnight. You want to get it running. You want to get all the oil flowing and get the viscosity changing and stuff and get it warmed up, because what it does is that'll pick up all the sediment, any sediment and stuff that's sitting in the oil pan, that's sitting in the oil. It suspends it in the oil so that whenever you drain it, you're draining all that stuff out. So that's why you want engine to be hot. And believe me, this is hot because I just did a transmission reprogram on this and a transmission relearning procedure, so I had to get the thing up to operating temperature. So it's hot, believe me. So now we are going to pull this drain plug out loose and drain all the oil. Okay, I'm just gonna put my wrench on here, loosen it up, just one little pop, just like that. Loosen it up, and like I said, be careful. Oil is hot. This drain plug is hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to twist this thing off really quick till the drain plug falls into my catch here, my oil catch, and then I'm going to grab the plug before the oil starts billowing out. Just like that. I got the plug right here. And there it is. $1,400 miles, that's all the vehicle has on it. So, of course, it doesn't look bad. It's like brand new. It really is. I mean, you can practically see through it at points. So, it's not bad at all. And of course you want to let this thing drain down as much as you possibly can. Of course, if you're sitting on a slope, so this is level. If you're sitting on a slope, you're gonna have more oil draining to the back, you know, and of course if it's slope forward or the other way, you know, depending on how the vehicle's sitting, depends on how much oil is going to come out of there. This is pretty much level. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's pretty close. You know, so we're going to get as much oil as we can possibly get out of there. And while that's draining, let's move on to the oil filter. Okay, here's the oil filter. Here's my oil filter wrench. Grab it. Lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Just like that. until, oops. My light back here so we can see what's going on. Until I can turn it by hand, and I'm just gonna let that drain. And of course it's making a mess. I'm just going to loosen it up until I can grab it and pull it out. And the oil filter is hot. It's not that bad, but it is hot. The oil pan is definitely hotter. And you can see there's still oil coming out of the oil filter. I'm going to tip it up like this and then pour it out and let that sit there and drain. And there it is. It's off. Oil drain plug's off and oil filter's off. So now there's a couple things I need to show you. So there's a couple things that I want to show you. This is the drain plug, right? It's just a regular Mazda drain plug. There's a lot of drain plugs like it, but this one belongs to this vehicle. Okay. We need to replace the seal, the gasket, the gasket ring that goes on it. And this is a washer. It's what you call a crush washer. And whenever this goes on there and you tighten this down, it crushes this down and it seals it. And it's crushing it, it seals it. And you need to replace this every single time you take one of these off. Put a new one of these on. Don't reuse old one. Will the old one crush? Yeah, the old one will crush again, but they don't do very well and they can leak. And you don't want your oil leaking in your driveway. So replace this. Also, one thing to check out, to be careful of, is this. Let me show you this. This is the drain, right? Look what's on there. You see that? That's the old washer. Okay, it was just sitting in place. So you definitely want to make sure that you get this off. If you put this old washer on there with the new washer on there, it's practically a guarantee that it's going to leak. So double check that. Here's another thing. When you take this oil filter off, look at the filter. You see this seal right here, this gasket right here. Right, this rubber O-ring. Sometimes these things stick, and sometimes they will stick up here. And if you're not paying attention, you will put your new filter on there with this gasket on there. It's a guarantee you're gonna lose all your oil. It's gonna leak all over your driveway. You ain't gonna make it out the driveway. You just won't. It's gonna leak everywhere. Not good for your vehicle to be running with no oil in it because all the oil's in your driveway, right? So make sure that you double check that. Look at the filter when you get it off. If it looks like this, make sure you look back up there, because chances are this gasket right here is stuck there, or it may have fallen off and may be sitting like right here or something. But either way, check, look up here, look at this, make sure there's no gasket sitting on it before you put your new oil filter. So let's get the new oil filter. We are going to use a Mazda filter. So you see this? Hopefully you can read that. That is the oil filter part number for Mazda. You can use whatever filter you want. It's your vehicle. So use whatever kind of filter you want. This is a Mazda dealership, so we're using a Mazda filter. And let me show you what these filters look like. So a lot of times what people will do is they get like a little bit of oil like on their finger, and they'll go around the seal on this thing. And a lot of people say, you know, you put that on there and then it won't be so tight for the next person that has to take it off. Of course, if you're the one putting it on there, you're the one doing the oil change, you're the one that's going to be taking it off. Actually, that's not really correct. Putting a little bit of lube or something on that seal will keep that seal, and you just saw when that seal came out, it keeps that seal from binding up and possibly coming off and rippling and possibly even tearing, depending on the type of filter. So it slides on there easier. And as a matter of fact, you can tighten it up even tighter with a little bit of oil on there than if you hadn't had oil on there. This one comes lubed already. You see this plastic right here? So if you have a Mazda, a lot of Mazdas have this plastic on us. Some of them are completely, covered in plastic. They don't even come in boxes, some of them. So the last thing you want to do with this is put your finger in there to pop a hole in there, pull the plastic off. That's the first thing you want to do. You don't do that. Mazda says do not do that. And the reason why is because if you put your finger in here, there's a possibility a small piece of plastic could come off on your finger, and it could go into the center right there and get stuck in there. And then once it's on your vehicle, that piece of plastic will go into your oil galley, and it's going to get stuck in something, probably a sensor or something, and it is going to cause issues, and you are going to drive a technician up the wall trying to figure out what's going on with your vehicle. So don't do that. Mazda says don't do that. Don't stick your finger in there. Grab it from the side. Whatever you need to do, grab it from the side, take it off. Okay, like that. And just so you know, a lot of people say, hey, fill this thing up with oil. It's already been proven. It doesn't matter if you put oil in this or you don't put oil in it. It takes 3 to 4 seconds starting an engine up for it to build up oil pressure. 3 to 4 seconds, whether you got oil in here or not. And also, just so you know, oil enters the oil filter through these outside edges, and then it comes out of the middle. That's how it filters, from the outside in, like that. So if you had plastic stuck in the center, it's not going to get stuck in the filter, it's going to get stuck in the engine. So just to let you know, I don't put oil in this. Besides, if you put oil in this, you're going to make a mess because the oil filter is sideways. So, and it already has lube on here. It already has like some grease lubed up on there, so Mazda pre-lubes it for you. So let's stick this in there. Okay, so I'm going to stick the filter in through this way. And there goes my light again. And I'm just going to tighten it up just like that. And I'm going to put my hand up here, and I am going to tighten it with the tips of my fingers as tight as I can possibly get it by hand, which is not that tight because I just can't grip it that great, but as tight as I can possibly get it by hand, and that's it. That's tight enough. That thing is going nowhere. It's harder to get off than it is to put on. So what you do not want to do is use something like this to tighten that up, because then you'll never get it off. Then you're going to be sticking screwdrivers through it and stuff like that, using a jackhammer to try and get this thing off. So that's it. That's tight enough, as tight as I can get it with my bare hands. And now we're going to get this one on. So I cleaned this up with brake clean a little bit. It has the new gasket on there. I'm gonna tighten it. Grab my 17mm wrench. It just happens to be a ratchet wrench. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. And I'm gonna grab it, and you can start to feel that thing crush. It's a crush washer. I can start to feel it crush as I'm turning it. It's tight, but I'm gonna keep pulling it till it's as tight as I can get it. I'm not gonna over tighten it, but that crush washer, I can feel it crushing down. And that right there is tight. That's as tight as I can get it, standing up right here, leaning out on it. So that is it. And another thing that I'm gonna do is clean this off with a little bit of brake clean. If you have some brake clean, it's a good idea to get some brake clean, because brake clean will clean off oil and then it'll dry. So another thing you might want to get doing an oil change, and I'm just gonna spray it on this little cross member right here. But you might want to get some rags. Definitely get some rags. Get some brake clean to clean it all up. And one thing that we do here at the dealership it's actually a rule is we use this tax seal, warranty seal, whatever you call it. I call it tax seal. And what it does is it reminds you to tighten the drain plug. So I'm going to put a little bit just crossing across that. It's like paint. That's what it is. So, and I just stick it across the bottom of the drain plug, just like that. And what that does is that reminds me to tighten it. So if I go to get that tax seal and I didn't tighten it, it's going to remind me, oh wait, I better tighten the drain plug. And it's also kind of a warranty thing. If somebody tampers with it, we'll know, hey, somebody opened this up, somebody tampered with it. But mainly, we did that to keep technicians from forgetting to tighten drain plugs. And I guarantee you, as soon as we went to this method right here, we got probably 80–90% less loose drain plugs in customers' vehicles. I know, it's ridiculous. We didn't have a lot back then, but now practically none. So tax seal, warranty seal, whatever you want to call it. So that's pretty much it. We drained the oil, we changed the oil filter, and so now we just need to put this cover back on and tighten this back up. So let's just do that. So one thing that we do that should be a part of every oil change is we're going to adjust the tire pressures. This vehicle actually has way too much air in the tires. And it's supposed to have 36. They had 38, so I'm going to adjust it to what Mazda says it should be. And if you want to know what the tire pressure is supposed to be in your vehicle, just look in the door, the driver's door jamb. There is a plate there that will tell you what your tire pressure should be at. And in this CX-90, they should be at 36. Of course, that's 36 cold PSI. And it's definitely not cold in here, but this is the best I can do. Just put them all at 36. 36 is where it should be. Like I said, this vehicle only has 1,400 miles on it, and my guess is it was probably sold with too much air in the tires, which means that the salesman that sold it probably did not get a new car get ready done on it, because every Mazda that is sold brand new has what they call a new car get ready, in which before the customer takes possession of the vehicle, it gets inspected and the tires pressures get adjusted and everything. So this probably didn't have that done. It only has 1,400 miles and it's got 38 PSI. So it probably was not done properly. Mazda likes to park the vehicles on the lot with excessive amounts of air in the tires, just to keep the tires from getting flat spots on them while it's sitting out on the lot. And so that's why doing that new car get ready is a major deal, because you get the tire pressures adjusted properly, you know, whenever you take possession of your brand new vehicle. So let's get this thing down and let's get some oil in it. All right, this is where the controversy starts. So, well, maybe, you know, everybody has their own ideas of stuff, and you know, just let me know what you think. So this engine is a 3.3 liter inline straight 6-cylinder. It's got a big old oil pan on it. It takes 6.3 US quarts of oil, 6 liters, right? 5.3 imperial quarts. So, and that is for doing an oil and filter replacement. So 6.3 quarts, that's what we're going to put in it. Now, Mazda says that in the US and Canada, you should use 0W20 viscosity oil. 0 W20. As a matter of fact, it even says on the oil fill cap, 0 W20. Okay. Now, except for USA and Canada, if you're not USA and Canada, then you should use 5W30. What? Why? Is 5W30 different in different countries than it is in the United States? Or why is 520, why are we using 520 in the United States and 530 in somewhere else? I don't understand. And it says that if you don't have 5W30, then you can use 5W20, or you can use 0W30, or you can use 10W30. This is Mazda. This is what Mazda says. It says it right there. Right there. Okay. What if you don't live in the United States or Canada and you have 020? You can't use that? What's going on? What's going on, Mazda? How does this make sense? Okay, let me throw another wrench into that. Okay, this thing's turbocharged. It's got a twin scroll turbocharger, twin scroll whistler right there. So years ago, back before Sky Active Technologies, because whenever they came out with Sky Active Technology, Mazda decided we're going to go with 020. And the reason why they went with that is because they got better gas mileage with 020, but they got better gas mileage with 020 with Molly. That's right, 020 with Molly. That oil is more expensive. We have 020 with Molly sitting on the shelf back here. Nobody ever buys it because it's expensive. Do they even know to ask for it? At this point, probably not. When Sky Active first came out, you know, they're like, yeah, 020 with Molly. People were asking for it, but it's more expensive. So we got 020 without Molly. They're both full synthetic oils, okay? So the Molly 020 had better gas mileage in the Sky Active engines. That's why Mazda went with 020. That's it. That's why. 020 with Molly. Better gas mileage. That's the whole idea behind the Sky Active engine. Better gas mileage. Okay, going back before Sky Active, we used 520 in all the engines. All Mazdas had 520. Until Mazda started blowing up turbochargers. It's like, you know, bearings are going out. We're blowing oil into the exhaust system. We're blowing oil into the intake system. Turbochargers, they just don't want to turn anymore. The bearings are stopping. What's going on, Mazda? So Mazda did an investigation and found out that the oil was coagulating in the oil return line from the turbo. So Mazda put out a bulletin on every single turbo vehicle. Don't put 520, because 520 is what was going in everything. So put 530. 530 will not coagulate in the oil return lines, because the oil return lines are getting stopped up. The turbo's not getting any oil through it because of it, and the turbos are going out. The bearings are going out. So use 530, and we started using 530, and no problems with the turbos. The problem just went away. It just went away. Then Mazda came out with Sky Active. Well, you know what? Mazda never sent a bulletin saying, hey, y'all don't have to worry about that 530 anymore. We're going to put 020 in everything. They never sent a bulletin out. So what we do here, because Mazda never told us anything about it, we put 530 in all of our turbo engines. Whether they're Sky Active, non-Sky Active, it doesn't matter. If it's got a turbo, we put 530 in it. Even if the cap right here says 020, we put 530, because it's got a turbo right there. And Mazda said, we need to use 530. So that's where the controversy is, and it's up to y'all. Y'all decide what y'all want to do. 530 is what our parts department charged out on this repair order for this vehicle. So 530 is what I have to use in order to keep our inventory correct. Anyway, and so 530 is what I'm going to go with, unless the customer specifically states, I don't want 530, I want 020. Nobody has ever said that when it comes to the turbochargers, as far as I know. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go get some 530, and we're going to put oil in this thing. All right, exactly 6.3 quarts of bulk 5W30 full synthetic oil going in. And don't forget about the blue stuff. Can't make no blue Hawaiian without that blue stuff. What is going on with this thing? Seriously. It's not gonna stay open for me. There. And then you want to pour it all over the place, you know. That way, you know, put your stamp on it so that they know that you were there. These things, I don't know how, but the thing is up at the top, yet it's still taking washer fluid. Okay, now it's full. And this thing must go way up underneath this fender right here. Get this thing back on here. Windshield washer fluid. What kind of washer fluid do you use? This is a concentrate. It's more cost effective for the dealership. Nobody pays for washer fluid. It's just part of the service. So, and there's a big mess I made there. So let's get this thing started up. Let's start it up and see if it starts knocking, or, well, no, it's not gonna knock. Let me get started. So once you get it running, one of the very first things that you want to do is look underneath there quickly. I don't see anything dripping. Everything looks good. There's no oil dripping on the floor, or the ground, or the driveway, or your garage. So that's a good thing. So you definitely want to check that, because you never know. And everything is running good. Mazda says we want to get this up to, it doesn't have to be complete operating temperature, but let's get some warmth in it. Let's get the stuff moving. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to let this run a little bit, and I'm going to run and I'm going to get an oil change sticker that I can put on the windshield for the customer. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn it off now. All right, I need to get a stool. What? A stool, yeah. I need to get a stepping stool. Right here. Got a stepping stool that I can step on so that I can climb up here and lean over, because the dipstick is right there. It's way back there, right? So I am going to pull the dipstick out. Mazda says that we need to let the vehicle sit for 5 minutes before we check the oil level. And I'm going to pull the dipstick out. I'm going to wipe it down. And I'm going to let it sit here. So why are we doing this? So what happens is Mazda says that the oil needs to have time to drain back down into the oil pan, because oil up in the top of the engine that is there because you just had the engine running is not going to register on the end of this dipstick right here. So they want you to let the thing sit for 5 minutes, and then, so that's why I pull the dipstick out and let it sit for 5 minutes. Then I'm going to stick the dipstick in and pull it straight out the top, and then I'm going to check and see how much oil's on it. By the way, the best time for you to check your oil, and you're going to check your oil, the best time, the very best time to check your oil, to find out how much oil you have, is first thing in the morning whenever you haven't driven the vehicle for a while. You don't even need to wipe the dipstick. Just pull it straight out and look at it, and that's going to be accurate. That's going to show you how much oil you have in your oil pan for sure. You don't even need to wipe the dipstick. Just pull it out and look at it first thing in the morning. Best time to check your oil. So what, we need to sit around for 5 minutes. What am I going to do for 5 minutes? Well, look at this. There are 2 areas in this vehicle in which you can adjust or set your maintenance up on, right? So you go up to this information right here, and right here, vehicle status monitor, next service. So see how this thing says next service? It says 1,500 miles for the next service, 1,500 miles remaining. It's like, okay, but the thing only has 1,445 miles. So that's not a whole lot. Look, you can check your oil level. Maintenance details. This shows that the next service is at 3,500 or 3,653 miles. So it's 1,500 miles, you know, distance until oil change. Let's go back. Vehicle maintenance setup. Right here, next service distance 5,000 miles. So somebody already came in here and they reset this. They set this manually. So right there it says manual, and it was set to 5,000 miles. So my guess is the customer reset it whenever he pulled onto the service drive this morning. So what we can do is we can go over here and hit it to automatic, right? Reset the oil change distance. So do you want to reset it? Yeah, reset the remaining distance until the next oil change has been reset. Okay, so what was it set to? I don't know. It's automatic, right? We can go out, and now it shows 10,000 miles. 10,000 miles? Seriously? That's the automatic. 10,000 miles. Remember, it used to say 1,500 miles. Let's go back into the maintenance settings. We're going to change this back to manual, right? Next service manual, and I'm going to go into the next service distance right here, and I'm going to go all the way down to 5,000 miles, because that is what the customer had it set to. And the customer did that. I didn't do that. The customer did it. So now it's back to 5,000 miles. If we back out of it, it says remaining 5,000 miles, right? Next service, 5,000 miles. So where did that 1,500 miles go? That was stuck in automatic. I don't know why Mazda does that. If you can make sense of it, run around down in the comments. Let me know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But it was set to 5,000 miles, but for some reason it said that in 1,500 miles we needed to change the oil. And that was really weird. And if you don't reset that, then this wrench light is going to come on and it's going to tell the customer, hey, it's time to change your oil. And the customer's going to be like, I just changed my oil 1,500 miles ago, you know. So it's weird. So you have to go back in there and you have to go into the manual and the automatic. You got to switch them, swap them out, reset them both. It is weird. Sometimes you don't have to do that, but most of the time you do. And it doesn't make any sense to me. Why did Mazda do that? I mean, I understand, hey, you want it on automatic or you want it on manual? Hey, it's up to you. You know, and that automatic says 10,000 miles, but it takes into account the heat, the temperature, how much driving you do, how much idling you do, how much full throttle, you know, it takes all that into account as it's monitoring what you're doing. It's watching you, you know, and we know these vehicles watch you anyway, but you know, it's gonna take all that into account and it's gonna change that mileage down to what it needs to be. So it's up to you if you wanted to set it for automatic or manual, but you should have an option, automatic or manual, not automatic and manual. It doesn't make any sense. Why Mazda? And it happens all the time. Customers bring their vehicles in, technician does an oil change, they reset the manual maintenance. The customer comes back the next day and they're like, my wrench light just came on. Y'all didn't reset my thing. And it turns out the technician reset the manual. He just didn't reset the automatic, you know. Well, I didn't know you had to go into automatic. It wasn't set to automatic. Yeah, exactly. You get my point. So let's check this oil and see what level we're at. All right, dipstick going in. Straight down, straight up. Read it, read it, read it. It is perfect. So I don't know if you can see this. Hopefully you can. Yeah, perfect. 6.3 quarts straight up. Let's see if I can even reach it. I can't even reach it. Okay. That is it. Let's get this engine cover put on here. That slides down into the slot there. Take this, make sure that folds up under there. Make sure that's there. Put this down. That's done. Everything's good, clean. Get my light out of here. Get the rags out. Close the hood. So a while back, I was doing a recall on one of these things, and I asked, hey, y'all want to see me do an oil change on one of these? And people said yes, I want to see you do an oil change on the CX-90. So here it is. That was it. And it may have stirred some controversy, and if you got any questions, comments, leave them down below. Let me know. You know, do you do your own oil changes? Let me know. Let me know how that goes. And thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching. I got a lot more to come. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs button, and I will see you in the next one.